What's going on, guys? So the question I've been asked most is, what settings do you use on your GoPro camera? So today I thought I'd cover that. So currently I'm shooting on the GoPro Hero 5. GoPro sent it out to me a few months ago, probably about 5-6 months ago. It's one of my favorite cameras I have in my bag, and it's my all-time favorite GoPro. Knowing the whole spectrum of the settings and what you can get and what you're able to access is very important, and it makes for an efficient workflow for when you're shooting video or shooting photo, when you're out in the field. So for my video settings, I always shoot 1080p and up. So 1080p, 120 FPS, 60 FPS. I'll shoot 1440, 2K, and 4K, but 4K I rarely touch, but it's mostly 2K and 1080p. And occasionally I use 1440 for when I'm mountain biking or have a body mounted camera. My standard go-to setting is 1080p, 60 frames per second, and on the Hero 5 you can have the internalized stabilization only at 60 FPS. You can't have that at 120. I'm willing to give up the frame rate for some stabilization. I always shoot on wide and medium field of view, and now on the Hero 5 you can have the linear field of view, which gives you a more DSLR kind of flatter look, and it takes out the wide angle distortion. And this is my full settings on the Hero 5. I don't know if you can see that. I'll put it on the screen somewhere around here. So I shoot on GoPro color. I don't really mess around with that. I'm not a big fan of the flat color, but GoPro works for me. White balance, I use auto for when I'm shooting video. ISO 400. Shutter, I usually do 1/60 or I'll just put on auto. It doesn't really make a difference to me. EV comp, I always put on 0. Sharpness low. I like putting it on sharpness low so that when I'm editing it, I have full control whether to make it a sharper image or softer. If I put it at high, I can't really lower that, and it doesn't really look that nice. Audio, I put on medium, and Pro Tune is on. Video stabilization is on. Auto low light, I don't touch that. I'll just lower the frame rate. If I want to have more light come in, I'll just drop it down to like 24 FPS. For when I shoot my chest, helmet, head, hand mounts, I'll do 1440p at 80 FPS. And then for photos, this is the question I get asked the most. What settings do I use for when I take photos? I keep it at the 12 megapixel setting. I'll shoot on FOV wide or FOV linear. So I'll either have a wider image or I'll have a tighter DSLR look. And I always swap around with this. Sometimes if I'm shooting a hammock shot with the trees, I'll put it on wide so then you can get more of the image, but then if I pull it back, I don't want the trees to be distorted, so I'll put it on linear. And then here are the settings for photos. I shoot on GoPro color, white balance native, I'll get to that in a second. ISO minimum 100, ISO max 400, EV comp non-applicable, sharpness low, and I'll shoot on WDR, which is the Hero 5's newest setting. WDR improves the darker and brighter scenes of your image, so it kind of adds more detail, so when you go into post-production, you can bump up those blacks or drop those whites and you'll still have data there. And then occasionally I'll shoot on RAW. I don't really do it as much because I like the look of WDR more than RAW, but RAW is definitely really good on the Hero 5. So the main trick I have with shooting photos is shooting with white balance native. This gives it a warmer tone to it, so everything has like a brown look. This looks really good on sunset shots. If you're out in the mountains with the snow, there's ways to manipulate it even though you don't want brown snow. You can bump up the brightness, drop saturation. You can do a lot to it. If you look at my other color correcting tutorials, you can see that most of those photos are shot with white balance native, and I'm still able to make them look really bright and make them look really nice. So yeah, these are all the settings that I use on my Hero 5 camera. These are all applicable to the older cameras like the Hero 3, Hero 4, the Hero 5 delivers, Hero 3 delivers, they all can get you really nice photos. It's not always about the settings. The settings can get you the proper quality. You need to have an understanding of where you should place your camera and where you should place your subject in terms of the sun and your activity. If you shoot directly into the sun, you might have a washed out image, but if you shoot with the sun behind you or to the side, or even in front but being blocked by a tree or even your rider, you can get a really nice and crisp image because you don't have the sun overexposing those areas. So I hope you guys enjoy this quick little video. I know I covered most of this stuff on my Instagram account, but I thought I'd collapse it all into one. Have a good one. Peace.